All right. Hey, good morning. It is the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Let me try that again. It is the Rise and Grind Morning Show, talking your Detroit Lions sports all day, every day. That's what we do here on the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is August 30th. We are almost done with this month, and it is on to the first week of the NFL season. I am more than ready. I can't wait to be there on Sunday night, watching our Detroit Lions hopefully put these Rams down in fitting fashion. But before we get going too much further, I want to welcome in Eric this morning. How you doing today?
Pretty good. Waiting on the thunderstorm right now.
Pretty good. You had tours last night?
Nope. Finally had a Thursday off.
That's great, man.
So I'm not completely a dead zombie this morning. So it's kind of nice.
That's all right. We have those days. I was pretty exhausted last night, man. Just too much going on. So we've got a pretty decent show for you guys this morning. We're going to get into, obviously, the Lions news and rumors. And today's roster is sponsored by Pro Sports Zone. Meet us there on September 7th. There's going to be a special 2-hour sale. Doors open at 10 a.m. to the mall there, Laurel Park Place Mall in Livonia. 10:30 to 12:30, we're going to be doing a special sale up to 25% off. We're going to have the wheel spin kicking off there, so you're going to be able to spin for some extra goodies. There's going to be door prizes. So get in there at 37700 6 Mile Road, Livonia, Michigan. 48125 is the zip code. Laurel Park Place Mall on Saturday, September 7th. And join us for a 2-hour sale. So the roster today, of course, Lions news and rumors. We're going to try to find, just about everything that's going on with these Lions and get you involved. Daily headlines. Stephen A. Smith still does not believe. Kind of says he believes. Kind of says he's going to give us a little bit of credit here or there. But I don't think he believes. And the Detroit Lions still are not getting respect, I think, from the national wires, if you will. Brad Holmes expects a Super Bowl. He didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't mince words. That's what he expects. Detroit is now a destination. I've been saying this for a couple of seasons, but I think we finally have seen it this year. And we'll talk about why, especially with how agents are reacting. And Brad Holmes kind of shed some light, on this subject yesterday as well. Land of opportunity is still alive in Detroit for UDFAs. New safety added. CJ Moore is gone. And Detroit fans, according to Brad Holmes, #1 fans in the world. And I believe it. 53-man roster updates. We'll try to get you all the updates today. Try to make sense of it. So right away this morning, I want to bring in, first I got to bring in the chat. I don't know why I don't have the chat open. But I would like to bring in the Stephen A. audio and kind of listen to what he had to say, because I don't get it. I mean, Shannon Sharp always gives us crap. He just always has. I mean, he's a Packer, right? He's going kind of like you yesterday. You're a Lions fan. You can't stand the Packers, so you're always going to jab, Packers fans. It's just the way it works. So I guess I'm not surprised by Stephen A. Smith to a degree, but I love these tidbits, right? They come out because we get to use them later on throughout the season. We can say, "Hey, told you so. Told you so." So anyway, did you get a chance to watch this one yesterday from, it might not have been yet. It might've been the day before, that it came out.
No, I don't watch Stephen A. Smith. Sorry.
I love listening to him, man. Anytime I get a chance to listen to him, I love hearing all the craziness that comes out of his mouth.
Yeah, I can't take it. The guy's an absolute Lion hater. So him and Shannon Sharp, I can't watch either one of them.
I do like watching Shannon Sharp's. Super impressed by the memberships that have come in, but I can't appreciate you guys enough. We have over 52 memberships right now in a week. In a week. And a lot of these have been gifted by former members too. And I really appreciate that, because that gives everyone an opportunity to kind of experience, utilizing this channel in different ways. And if they want to continue on with their membership after the first month, they can do that. So let's dig into this. Let me bring this in here.
With them on these Detroit Lions because I'm thinking about second team in NFL history last year to have at least 4 players score 10 or more touchdowns. David Montgomery, Jamal Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and of course Sam Laporta. Only the 2013 Broncos had 5 players score 10 or more TDs. That's just a little nugget of information for y'all right there. But here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at their personnel. I'm looking at the fact that they've basically overhauled their defense, which ranked 19th in yards and 23 in points allowed last season. That's not the same defense we're expecting to see this year. I'm also going to give love and credit to Dan Campbell, who I'm very, very fond of and I think has changed the culture. Here's what makes things interesting, where it's really a toss-up between Green Bay and Detroit, fellas. When you look at Detroit right now, was it a one-hit wonder? Do you know how to play now with the first time having expectations? Remember, they won 2 playoff games in a season last year, in a playoff season last year. They won 2 playoff games. That was the first time they did that since 1957. I mean, this team is not accustomed, this franchise is not accustomed to prosperity. So now that you were just knocking on the door of a Super Bowl championship berth, all right, and you got that close, and now the expectations are there. How are the Detroit Lions going to respond to that, Shannon? I think that's a question. Go ahead, Shannon.
Yeah, Bart. I know you think it's Motown and they're just gonna have hit after hit after hit, but that ain't the case, bro. and for everybody out there, Bart Scott is from Detroit, so that's why he's picking his hometown team, because he knows he wouldn't be able to go back if he didn't. Right. He think he's slick.
There we go. You have 15 seconds, Bart Scott. 15 seconds.
Well, first of all, they had expectations because, remember, the way they finished the season the year before. So living up to expectations, that was last year that they dealt with the expectations. They're the only one in that division that has a quarterback that has played in a Super Bowl and has taken a team to the Super Bowl. So they have the experience. Can Jordan Love live up to their expectations and the fact that now there's film out there and people are going to adjust to the way that they play?
Bart Scott? That was 22 seconds.
Damn.
But I forgive you.
Well, Stephen A. Smith, I don't forgive you. Shannon Sharp, I definitely don't forgive you. He used to terrorize the Lions when he was a Green Bay Packer. Were you able to hear that, Eric?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So right away, I want to get your thoughts on this, and you kind of give me your 90-second, I guess, elevator pitch. Why are the Lions not getting the credit that they deserve still? What do we have to do? And I guess before we do that, when Shannon talks about Motown being hit after hit after hit, let me just remind you guys of something. About Jackson 5 ABC. Marvin Gaye, Ain't No Mountain Too High Enough. Ain't That Peculiar by Marvin Gaye as well. About the Temptations, Ain't Too Proud to Beg. Ask the Lonely, the Four Tops. The Supremes, Baby Love. Or Back in My Arms Again. The Four Tops, Bernadette. So yeah, there's just a few hits, man. Martha and the Vandellas. The Contours. Little Stevie Wonder. So just a few. Gladys Knight and the Pips. Just a few hits coming out of Detroit. But now we're talking football, though. It's a little bit of a different tune to this story and what we're talking about this morning. So 90-second elevator pitch. Why are the Lions not getting the respect that they deserve?
Oh, well, the God of Thunder is going crazy at my house right now. Listen, for the last 30-something years, the Packers have absolutely dominated this division. They win it year after year after year after year. And every single year, Sterling Sharp and Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith, they all pick the Packers every single year. Every time there's a Lions game, they always pick the Packers, no matter what. They always have to root for what they deem the winner. They never pick the underdog. They don't know what it is to struggle. They've always been on winning teams, and that's it. They have this mentality of all we're going to do is root for the winner, and that's it. And we've always been champions, and everyone else sucks. And I just can't stand these guys. all it is just them all the time. It's never the underdog. The other team can never get better enough to beat your Packers. We're always going to be the lowly Lions no matter what we do. We can never fix our team. We can never do enough. Nothing is ever good enough for them, ever. And call me a homer, call me whatever you want. Lions are going to the Super Bowl this year, and those guys can stick it where the sun don't shine.
Yeah, and sorry, I meant Sterling Sharp's brother, being the former Packer, not Shannon. My apologies there.
Yeah.
So
both of them are super Packer homers.
Well, and they're also super talented NFL players. I mean,
they were. And
Shannon over 10,000 yards in his career, man. He's not he's no slouch. Let's just put it that way.
So players, they're not fans. They don't see it from a fan's perspective. They see it from a former player's perspective.
Yeah, and there was like a story that came out the other day. Speaking of being homers or whatever, right? There was a story that I heard or read something the other day talking about U of M players in the NFL that for whatever reason almost every player in the NFL loves it when U of M loses. Like it doesn't matter if they're playing against that team or not. When Michigan loses, it's like everyone's like, yeah, hey, you suck or whatever. They got something to say to the U of M player. And I don't remember who said that, but the point that I'm trying to make is it seems like when the Lions do anything good, it's, yeah, but that's not you. You got lucky. Or, Kansas City didn't have Travis Kelce and, it's just whatever the excuses are and the asterisks are, next to the Detroit Lions wins or seasons where you have complete turnarounds and you don't lose 8 out of 10 games in a row or whatever it's been now. I mean, we've won what? 24-ish out of like the last 28 games or something like that.
22-8 since Peyton Manning did the bathtub.
Yeah, I'm talking about after the 8-2 run. So the second half of 22 till now, I want to say that we're right in that 24, 25, and 28 record somewhere. It's a lot. Let's just put it that way. No other team in the NFL has won that many games in that same span. Not even the Kansas City Chiefs. So I guess where I'm going with this is, what is it going to take for us to get the credit? So I think it's going to take a Super Bowl. And even when we win a Super Bowl, I think that we're still going to get the asterisk somewhere, somehow. It's going to be there. No one is ever going to respect the Lions. And this is where we have to just take it, right? We can't. Time to wake up. Yeah, we can't allow these people just to continue to trash us. So it's time to just go smack them in the mouth, right? We got to take the football away. No more game. Like, just take the football away. It's house rules, and let's just shut them down this year, and make them realize that the Lions are for real. I mean, what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are doing is it's not. It's sure it's a little surprising, but it's by design. It was their plan from the very get-go of how they were going to build this team. They're just the best at doing it. I think everyone, to Dan Campbell's point, is just a bit salty, don't you think? Maybe that's why he wears that shirt, because everyone's salty at how good Brad Holmes is. Everyone's salty at how much success Ben Johnson has had. Everyone is salty that Dan Campbell has turned around the Detroit Lions. And everyone is extremely salty that Jared Goff is the top 5 quarterback in the NFL. So, you know what? These are all good things for us as fans, because it's gonna taste that much sweeter when it happens. And we're gonna have that much more to say when we get there. When we finally get to the top of the mountain, it's gonna feel that much better. So keep bringing it. It just gives us energy. It just gives us stuff to talk about, I guess.
Yeah, I thought that this year that Jared Goff wasn't going to have this big chip on his shoulder. It was finally going to be gone. Well, you know what? It's there. It's not going anywhere. There's too many people talking about him not being good and not doing this and not doing that. Well, you know what? It's just going to give him more fuel to the fire. Same thing with the whole team. Bring it. Let's go.
So, Broski Bear, I'm not going to try to pick on you, but I'm going to level with you. Your statement says, Will, being a perennial playoff team will earn national respect. You can't expect everyone to bow down after one season, after going the last 30 without being in the playoffs. I totally respect that. But this is where I'm going to tell you or ask you, what the hell have the Bears done? What have they done in the same span? Nothing. They really haven't. So why do the Bears get instant gratification across the media for a quarterback that's done nothing, who's a rookie? And we know that the stats weigh against the rookies 97.5 to 1. Like, you seriously got to understand that most rookie quarterbacks do absolutely nothing in the NFL for almost 3 seasons. That's why when they usually draft a rookie in the first round and that rookie is going to start the season, you can shelve that team for at least 2.5 seasons before they start to become relevant, if that quarterback actually works out. So I'm going to challenge your statement and kind of throw it back in your lap and say, what have the Bears done in the last 10 years that gives them any sort of respect because they bring in Caleb Williams? So I think it's a fair statement here. It's a fair question. They haven't done anything. What have the Vikings done?
The Vikings went 13-4 and then lost to the Giants in the first round of the playoffs.
Right. The Danny Dimes in the play. I mean, come on. But we knew that they were frauds that entire season. We knew it. We kept saying it.
Hey, I got to say something right now. I am so sick of everyone calling the Lions frauds this year.
It's all right.
All the fans from other teams, you're going to find out real quick here in about 8 days.
Yeah. We just get ignored. I think that's a fair David Scott. I think that's a fair point. Sorry, David Scott. In case he says, exactly like Chicago's a bigger national media. Look, Detroit's not like we're some small city here. Yeah. I mean, this was the heartbeat of America after the World War II. Detroit built this country. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, they fell on some hard times, but you know what? I think that the resilience of the city of Detroit is also the same jacket that this team wears. This city was down in the dumps not even 10 years ago, filing bankruptcy. Now it is a thriving city. Thriving city. People talk bad about Detroit and say how terrible it is to go visit Detroit, and then they go to the city and they're like, whoa, what the hell are you guys talking about? Like, this place is great. And it's part of Michigan. So, that Michiganders, Michiganians, however you want to call it, maybe are some of the most rock solid people there are. Just genuine, down to earth people. Give you the shirt off our back, welcoming, humble, open, just good people. Just good people, man. But Detroit is a representation of this country and has been for a long time of the hardworking, blue collar, grind it out every day kind of people. And that's why I think that this team is hitting on so many points with its fans and, the city, the state of Michigan and in some areas of the country. I mean, we do get some respect, like Kyle Brandt. I mean, he's been a big supporter of the Lions. Over the last couple of seasons. And there's a few others. But this is a resurging team. Now, I'm just sick of the hate, but at the same time I welcome it because this just stack them chips. Just stack them up. Because Jared Goff's going to throw a dime right at them and knock them all off this year. All right, I'll move on. We'll get off the soapbox, I guess. All right, so what's up next? Brad Holmes expects a Super Bowl. I do too. You watched Brad Holmes' interview the other day?
Yeah. That was great. Him and Ray Agnew.
A lot of tidbits out of there. I love Ray, man. Like Ray's cool people. I thought it was a bit humbling for him when he said that, he got noticed and he was out somewhere at a store or something, and he didn't really give the full background, but he gets noticed, and even though the Lions were losing like crazy, like the person that recognized him was like, man, we riding with you. We're still here. Just go get it done. And that had to feel good, instead of it being the other way, where people were stacking up against you just because we weren't having instant success. Because this, for whatever reason, people feel like you can just be an instant team in the NFL. Like, it does not happen. If you completely gut a team the right way in the NFL and rebuild it, like completely rebuild it, do not expect anything for at least 2 seasons, but 3 to 4 is more like it, like to even make the playoffs or have a chance at it. The Lions just arrived a bit early. Super shout out here to the Lost Angels. 499 super chat says, it's the same reason why people think Green Bay is going to win the division, even though Love is not proven and can be a one-hit wonder. Dude, perfect point. Perfect point. Perfect point.
Yep.
I could go on a diatribe all day about that.
Listen, I get flack all the time because I say Jordan Love is not proven. He is going to regress this year, and the Packers are only going to win 6 games. I hear it all the time. Like, oh, you're just a homer. You're just a homer. No, I see it with my own eyeballs. I don't believe Green Bay is going to be any good this year. That's my opinion. I'm sorry. It's different than everyone else. I don't think the Packers are going to be all that great this year. I hope they fall flat on their face.
So, I mean, I get it. Like, you've got a lot of resentment towards the Packers. I mean, you're kind of up there where it's Packer country more so than I think than it is Lions fans.
Yep.
And I get it. So you're surrounded by it. But to be honest with you, I'm not expecting Jordan Love to completely fall off the wagon here. I'm not. I'm just not expecting him to play an entire season like he did the last 8 games. No. Look, if he can win, if he can go 9-8 this year, I think that would be a success for the Green Bay Packers. That's not what they want. That's not what they expect, especially after paying the dude. But I don't think that you're going to see a team that's going to go 15-2 or 14-3 or 13-4. I think that they're going to fall somewhere between 500, which there is no 500 anymore. So either 8-9 to, potentially 10 wins this year. And I don't think that that's a terrible season, but I don't think he's just, this answer to all of Green Bay's, quarterback questions. And, now what do you want to call him? The third rising to the sun, after Brett Favre. I just don't see it. I don't see it. Not yet. I need to see more from Love.
I'm just a little more to the extreme. I think that Love not having a true number 1 wide receiver is going to hurt that team. And it's not like their number 2 is putting up 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns like Amon-Ra St. Brown. It just isn't happening.
The only thing that I will say about not having the number 1 wide receiver is that can be a slippery slope, because last year I said the same thing about the Kansas City Chiefs heading into week 1. Yep. That they just did not have a dynamic room with wide receivers. And somehow Patrick Mahomes figured out a way to allow that team to win. And maybe it was the other, the opponent's fault more often than not, that, they were making the mistakes of leaving these. I mean, come on, these were not world beater wide receivers, but leaving these receivers open and, putting too much emphasis on Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce had a really solid season again, but you can't expect to just win with one guy. If somehow the Chiefs did it, maybe they got some help throughout the season from the Zebras. I think they have the last few seasons, honestly, but I'm not going to put the blame all there. You have to be able to beat them too. You have to.
That's something I've really noticed with the Detroit Lions. We don't hardly ever get beat by the Zebras very often. Every now and then, like the Dallas Cowboys game, it happens. But for the most part, we play well enough to overcome a bad call by the Zebras. And that's the difference in the old Lions and the new Lions. Is that
I would respectfully disagree with that, because in the last few seasons we've had some pretty rough calls, and I think our history has been the Zebras have interfered just enough to ruin a close game. So if we're in a close game, I worry about it. If we're up by 2 scores, I'm less worried about it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, for now, we're able to get the bigger leads where we weren't able to get any kind of lead before.
Yeah, that I would agree with 100%. Man. Oh, don't forget, we got the first raffle of the week. So I forgot to tell you guys, every week this season, I'll be doing a raffle for the Rock On Cancer Foundation. You just got to hit the links in the description. Go to the Buy Me a Coffee shop. And there is a QR code that'll pop up at some point throughout the show this morning. If you have any questions, just go to Buy Me a Coffee /rocked on, and then visit the shop, and you'll see the Penei Sewell helmet that's currently up for raffle. And then that'll close. I think we're doing it on the 10th that morning during the Rise and Grind morning show at 9 a.m. We'll do the live drawing. So you got to make sure that you put your email in there, or I'm sorry, your handle in there, or your name in there, so that I can put that into the wheel spin, and then we'll do it live like we always do. So you guys will get a shot at winning something every week if you want to donate to Rock On Cancer Foundation. I think the tickets are $5 a piece for this first one. And then we're going to have different style of items up every single week. So we might have, big autographed, artwork. There might be jerseys. It could be signed jerseys. There's all sorts of things. There could be signed footballs, signed helmets, like the big helmets. There's all sorts of things that I'm going to get for this year, and working on another sponsorship to bring in even bigger, better items like tickets to a game, all that stuff. So pay attention to that. There's a lot of great opportunities for you guys to win some cool stuff. So Super Bowl or bust for Brad Holmes. The expectations have never been higher. And I guess to follow up on what Stephen A was saying, which I didn't comment on, saying that now we have expectations. I agree wholeheartedly with Bart that we had expectations coming out of 2022. The way you finish that season, right? You send the Packers off to Never Never Land. You send Karen Rodgers to the Jets. And then you walk into 2023 as, winners. You had a successful season. Those expectations were already there. The Lions, they told us in the very beginning of the season, we're making the playoffs. We're winning the NFC North. They put the expectations on themselves to start the season. So nobody else needed to do it for us. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes told us before week 1 last season, we're winning the North. That's it. That's where we want to go. And they almost brought us to the Super Bowl. So this year, it's Super Bowl or bust now. I guess there's only one other place to go. You've got to get into the Super Bowl. I don't think that it's a complete failure if we don't, but I'm also expecting that this is the year the Lions do it. Notwithstanding a catastrophic and complete breakdown of this team, through injury, I don't think that there's any reason why we can't. With it, this is the most talented team I've seen in my lifetime, to be honest with you. Maybe there was one other team, maybe. That was probably 2014. I thought that was a pretty talented team too. 2013-ish, all in that area. Yeah. Hold on a second here. Trace, I don't see that. So in the mods chat, I don't. Oh, now I see it. I don't know why that. Yeah, that can't happen. Ryan, you're going to have to undo that. I don't. Here, I've got it undone. I think. All right. I think I got it fixed. But yeah, I would like to know why too. All right. So what was I talking about? We were talking about the Super Bowl or bust, right? Yep. So the expectations have never been higher for this season, for this team. And general manager Brad Holmes of your Detroit Lions made it abundantly clear on Thursday morning that he's not lowering the bar. Like that's where we're headed. That's what they expect for this season. It's to win the Super Bowl, to quote Brad Holmes. But for decades, the notion of the Lions raising the Lombardi Trophy in February has been laughable, right? I mean, it's something that we have never thought was a reality. It was never going to happen. But every year you wake up as a Lions fan and we're going to do it. You know, we're doing great in the draft. We're going to, you know, pulling in these free agents, spending, you know, through the nose on these free agents. And it's not even midway through the season. You're like, yeah, I mean, we're already expecting the draft again. That's not the way it's been the last couple of seasons. Everything really changed last season when the Detroit Lions fell just one half short of going to the Super Bowl in a Super Bowl matchup that I think all of us, without a doubt, felt we had a better than 50-50 shot at beating the Chiefs. The Lions advanced to the conference title game by winning 2 playoff contests in one postseason for the first time since capturing their last championship in 1957. With none other than Bobby Lane, right? The curse is gone after 60 seasons is what's being thrown out there now. So Holmes and head coach Dan Campbell were hired in January of 2021 to turn around the fortunes of the downtrodden franchise, if you will, to quote Detroit 4. They've made shrewd decisions in the draft. Even some would argue that it's egotistical by Brad Holmes of the moves that he has made, as well as they've made key additions, including Jared Goff in 2021 with that epic trade of Matthew Stafford. Before I go on, another super shout out, another super chat to the Los Angeles 499 says, everyone likes to bring up how they beat us on Thanksgiving. Talking about the Packers, when our offensive line was out and we had no defense. We completely fixed our defense. And we were missing a few players that game. I don't remember who was out in that game exactly. Might have been Taylor Decker. It wasn't. It might have been Taylor Decker. I don't know. I remember if Frank was out in that game or not. But yeah, another super shout out to the Los Angeles, man. Appreciate you supporting the channel this morning. And Ryan apologizes. Los Angeles. He didn't mean to hide you. It was just a pocket thing, you know, phone in the pocket kind of deal. No biggie, Ryan. It's not. We catch those things. We get it fixed. So to go on here with this story, Brad Holmes had this to say. He says, we've kept our approach and our process very consistent in terms of how we build it, the opportunities that we provide players, and that's what gives us confidence. We've been saying it since day one. We want to get better every single year, and we've done that. And we plan to continue to do that. Now, the Lions signed Jared Goff, 4-year, $212 million extension this past spring. In a move that was, I would say, 50-50 with Detroit Lions fans, maybe even a little bit less. Some fans thought it was a huge mistake. Matter of fact, a lot of fans were thinking that Hendon Hooker was going to be starting this season. How grave of a mistake that would have been. And I warned you all about it. Now, Hendon's going to be fine, but he is not a leader of this team right now. I mean, he's barely doing enough right things, to even give us an opportunity to score touchdowns. But Jared Goff signing this massive deal, I think it kind of put, fans in a frenzy. Like, what are we doing? We're spending too much money. We're not going to have enough money, to bring in the players that we need. But I think that what was forgotten is that Brad Holmes doesn't go out and sign big name free agents. Not very often, and not for a ton of money. And we still have more money now than we had in the beginning of free agency. That's why I don't worry about what Brad Holmes does. That's why I haven't worried about these contracts. The only one I was a little worried about was Amon-Ra St. Brown, because I thought that he was going to get way overpaid for the position that he plays. But there's just not a dollar amount when you think about it that you can't attach to Amon-Ra St. Brown that doesn't make sense. I mean, he is the super glue of this team. And he is teaching these guys. You know, when you bring in a speaker to speak to your company, right? And you pay big money to get this motivator in, like Tony. The reason why companies do that and they pay through the nose for these guys is because they have that it factor, right? They're able to reach into your heart and pull things out, right? And reach into you and pull things out of you to get you motivated. That's what Amon-Ra St. Brown is. You could just pay this guy to be a motivator. You could just pay this guy to teach players how to practice. And there's not a dollar amount that you can attach to that doesn't make sense. Because what he does on and off the field is totally different than what I've ever seen from another NFL player, at least for the Detroit Lions. So where I'm going with this is a lot of fans thought that Jared Goff was the wrong guy. He's not mobile. He's not a dual threat. Well, that's not our offense either. And I think that you have to look at those things. Like, what are we doing offensively? Does it work? Clearly it has. Top 5 offense 2 seasons in a row. Brad Holmes had this to say. He's the right guy. He's the leader for us. He didn't need a contract to go out there and do what he does on the field. He truly earned that. I have not seen a change in him. That is probably the most important statement you're ever going to hear about a quarterback that gets a giant contract. How do they change moving forward? Because a lot of it is mental. Some get cocky and arrogant. Some think that their what doesn't stink. And that's when things start to collapse. That's when you start to have problems in the locker room. Not Jared Goff, man. The money hasn't changed this guy. He's gotten big contracts in the past. And he still has gone out and played pretty damn good football. He's only had 2 losing seasons. His rookie season with the Lions and rookie season with the Rams. I mean, those are the worst 2 seasons that he's had. And rightfully so, that those would be the 2 seasons that he had. I mean, the Rams team that year was terrible. I mean, they lost just about every game before they decided to throw Jared Goff in there. And then coming to the Lions in 2021, he didn't have a team at all. And the guys that they did bring in for the offense, they were all hurt. He had nobody to throw the ball to but Amon-Ra St. Brown. And it just took several weeks for that click, that switch to finally get activated. And since then, it's just been an absolute epic ride. So the big question here during training camp was who would win the backup job, right? Was it Teddy Bridgewater was retired? Hendon Hooker, a 3rd-round pick. Was he going to overtake his job? He was out last season recovering from a knee injury from college, slowly emerging as the number 2. Nate Sudfeld, he's back for another season. He's just coming back from injury. Well, now that the dust is settled, Jared Goff is your number 1. Hendon Hooker is your number 2. And Holmes had this to say about Hendon Hooker. He said, you see the ability and the talent that he has. He gave a lot of life and spark to the offense when he had his opportunities. So again, this just shows that Holmes stays reserved, right? And calculated in the moves that he makes in putting this team in the right position to win. And I think that that's where we are now. Even with now the emergence of Isaiah Williams, another undrafted free agent that comes to this team that cracks a 53-man roster on cut day. And we've seen the explosiveness of this kid and what he's been able to deliver so far in a short amount of time. And he hasn't even been working with Jared Goff in these games. And that, I think, is what fans need to understand the most here. We haven't even seen the best of this kid yet. The picture that I'm trying to paint right now is there is not a move too big or too small for Brad Holmes. There is not a move too big or too small for the Detroit Lions as a whole. They are stacked in every corner of the room. There is no reason why we can't take this the distance this year. Eric, I've said enough. What do you think?
Well, you mentioned a couple of players. and they're two of my favorite players, and it's not for the typical reason. Jared Goff has turned into one of my all-time favorite Detroit Lions, and this is why. Because the deck was stacked against him. He was brought here. He didn't want to come here. In a trade, and he was a throwaway. He was a cast-in, a castaway. He was thrown in as part of the deal to get rid of some money off the books and to get rid of this guy because McVay didn't want him anymore. And he came to this team, and we weren't a team yet. We were still a bunch of nobodies. We didn't know what we were doing. Dan Campbell didn't have a clue. Anthony Lynn had this offense in shambles to begin with. And we had this 4th round pick named Amon-Ra St. Brown. And he wasn't doing anything when he very first got here. And he had to earn his way through, earn it. And he did. And I remember going to the very first game of Dan Campbell with Jared Goff. And I remember watching Amon-Ra St. Brown and Khalif Raymond before the game, warming up with each other, and watching Amon-Ra St. Brown go around with Khalif Raymond following him around like a little puppy dog. And I knew Khalif Raymond had a few years in the league. And that day, those two players, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff, endeared themselves to me because we came back in the 4th quarter. We almost tied the game back up with the 49ers. Of course, the 49ers, right? Their very first game. And the 49ers get out to a big lead, and we almost come back in that game. And we had no one. We had no one in that game. And that was when I knew it. I knew that Goff had the it factor to get us where we needed to go. He just needed a team around him. Well, now they've built that team around him, and Amon-Ra hasn't had anything handed to him. He's had to earn everything he's done, everything, because he's not the biggest guy. He's not the fastest guy. He's not the most talented guy. He's the work ethic guy. He goes to the jugs machine every day and catches 201 balls because the other kid caught 200 balls, and listen, blue collar.
I think it's 202, but yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah. And listen, he's endeared to my heart now. I love these guys. They're my favorite Lions. And it's because they put in the work. They just take all that outside noise. They don't care about it whatsoever. They cash in the receipts when they have to. But other than that, they're not listening. They don't care. They are putting their nose to the grindstone, and they're getting it done. And that's what's endeared me. They've been through thick and thin. They went through 3-13-1, and then they went through 1-6. And their owner came out and said, "I believe in you," and they turned it around. And I don't know if it was the bathtub full of gin or whiskey or whatever, or they just started getting it together. And everything has turned around ever since. And all I can say to anybody doubting the Lions, just keep on doubting us.
Bathtub full of whiskey, man. I mean, that is such a hilarious story that I do want to revisit again this year. I want Peyton Manning, not that he's ever going to listen to this channel, but dude, you got to run that back. Like, you have to do a follow-up now. Like, you own that. You have to do a follow-up story on the Detroit Lions of where they were and then where they are since the bathtub. Like, now it's time for you to get in the bathtub, right? And take a bath, drink a cup of whatever the hell was in that tub. And now you send us to the Super Bowl. Like that, you just got to go one step further. You got to drink it. Whatever is in that tub, you got to drink it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Got to drink it.
Yeah.
The Kool-Aid, that was the true Kool-Aid, right? That was in that tub.
Put some blue whiskey in there.
All right. I'm surprised they didn't use a blue coloring for that, but Super Bowl or bust. Look, I believe that the Lions have their best opportunity now in 4 seasons of rebuilding this team and 4 drafts. You've noticed a different tune this year to the Detroit Lions. They went out and attacked positional groups differently. They've hung on to more guys in positional groups than they have in seasons past. And I think it's because they feel the offense is there. They know the offense is there. Only keeping 23 players on the offense, that's what I expected. That's what I had in my initial 53 projection. And I forgot to mention that. I hit on the exact numbers that they were going to keep, offense versus defense versus special teams. And, they just took different guys at different areas because they had different agreements with guys to come back in the practice squad or whatever. The point I'm trying to make here is Brad Holmes went out and attacked this team differently to give us that opportunity, especially knowing that DBs go down, defensive linemen sometimes go down, and offensive lineman has always been an issue with this team with health. Frank Ragnow's foot has always been a problem. Last year had a knee added to that situation. Taylor Decker seems to get nicked and cut and bruised at some point throughout the season. Graham Glasgow is like Steady Eddie of the group. That guy's always rock solid. Has been ever since he was here the first time. And Penei Sewell is always rock solid. Like he's had very, very few issues, if ever, since he's been a Detroit Lion that at least have been, out there, like, on an injury report or, said by Dan Campbell that Penei was suffering with anything. Like the guy just, for whatever reason, he stays upright. He needs to stay upright this season. Losing any one of those guys is not going to be good for this team, but I think that we're getting to a point now where they're going to make the right decision, the right moves behind those guys to make sure we have at least 1 or 2 guys that can step in and play. And bringing back Jamarco Jones, in my opinion, was the perfect move for that. With experience, he proved right away that he could play. They didn't need him to play in that 3rd preseason game. Super Bowl or bust, man. That's where I'm at. I think that the Lions are going to do it. And according to the chat, we have 30 votes so far. Do the Lions make it to the Super Bowl in 2024? 93% say yes. Only 7% say no. And I'm going to go ahead and guess that one of those votes is from Broski Bear. I don't know, but I'm just going to guess. It's probably from Broski Bear.
You're a very good guesser, Will.
Yeah. I can be at times. All right, what's next here? Let's talk about it. We are going to talk about Detroit is now or has been a destination. I said this last year. I said it at the tail end of 2022 that the Detroit Lions was now a destination city for free agents and for players that wanted to play with this team. Given the recent success following the 2022 season, you've now seen it. You've now heard it out of Brad Holmes that NFL agents are knocking down the door to get their players a chance to interview with this team. And then that was probably the most important thing that I heard out of the entire press conference. Now you may say that that's trivial, doesn't matter a whole lot, doesn't mean a lot, but it really does. Because for decades, nobody wanted to come to this team. When guys were traded to the Detroit Lions, the first thing that they're probably thinking, or at least things that you've read from the media and so on and so forth, is that's where players go to retire. And that's not a good thing. That's where they go to end their career. That the Detroit Lions were career killers. And now it's different. Now this team they're career builders. You're coming into a team that has the ability to develop players at a much deeper level than ever seen before. The coaches aren't running away. They want to run to the Lions, and there's a wait list. I'm sorry. You're not getting in. You're not getting a shot with the Lions until positions become available. They've made a few changes every year, with the DB room, for whatever reason, has been, revolving door with coaches. With the defensive line room, we've had a couple of changes over the last few seasons. Todd Wash left, and then John Scott had an opportunity that apparently they thought that needed to be changed, and so they made that change. And now you have Terrell Williams. I don't really need to explain the DB room, but there was issues there. And so now what you're seeing is with players, these guys want to run to Detroit. They want an opportunity to learn from these coaches. They want to be around the guys like Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Aiden Hutchinson and Lee McNeil and, the rest of these guys that, are the breath of this team. So we are in a very good spot. Very, very good spot for our future, because that means that we might get the cream of the crop when it comes to free agency every season. So the other side of that is, why haven't we brought in the big time free agents? Is it a case of they didn't want to play in Detroit? Or is it a case of Brad Holmes doesn't want to sign big name free agents? I've heard it argued both ways, and I'm going to go with the latter. I don't believe that Brad Holmes ever wants to have to sign a big name free agent for big money. That's just not his MO. He wants to build this team from the ground up. He wants this team to grow through the draft. He wants to know his guys. He wants to develop his guys. And then he wants to reward his guys. Not everybody is going to be able to get a contract. There's just not enough money to go around. But I think what you're going to see is more hometown discounts. You're going to see guys that want to play here, that want to stick around. You saw it with the practice squad. None of the guys that had, more than 3 accrued seasons needed to come back to this team. I'm sure a lot of them had offers. But why did they? Because they're in the best position right now with a contender. And that word keeps getting thrown around everywhere on the internet right now, that the Lions are a contender. I mean, that feels good just saying it. Being a Super Bowl contender in less than 3 seasons of work is huge. And the free agents see that. NFL agents see that. The world is now seeing that. And you're right. That's a lot of expectation. By this team to do more. That's why it takes more. Perfect moniker for the season. It does take more. It took 30 more minutes last season to make it to the Super Bowl. That's it. Just 30 more minutes. It took just one more stop. One stop in that San Fran game, and the Lions are in the Super Bowl. It just took a little bit more. But now you're seeing that this team is going to grow exponentially year after year after year. If they have another season like they did last year, man, that door is going to be wide open for opportunity. And players are going to be willing to sacrifice some funds to come and play with this team and have a chance at a ring. And the minute we win one, I think we're going to be off to the races, and we're going to be able to win a few in a very short amount of time, as long as we can keep Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes around. I think that this team is being set up for what could be a dynasty. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could be. It could. We got to win one first. We're nobodies until we win one. We have to win one. But you can't discredit what this team has done since 2021. You just can't. So where's the article that I wanted to? Here we go. It says Lions are now a destination for free agents. And Holmes discussed the new perception of the Lions franchise on Thursday, citing its back-to-back winning seasons as a reason for overall uptick in interest from players and their agents. So it does require winning, right? You have to win. And we haven't won a lot over the last 30 years or more, but we're starting to show that we're serious. And Brad Holmes said this. He says, it has been different. In the past, I would say for the first 2 years, we were doing a lot of selling and convincing constantly just to try to get guys here. But now it does make you feel good that we've done something and we've accomplished some good things. And these agents want to send their players here. Holmes, who is entering his 4th season as the general manager alongside Dan Campbell, specifically noted that the agents of wide receivers and kickers pushed to get their players in Detroit this offseason, where he was quoted again now with the wide receiver front. That was an even easier conversation. Every agent of a wide receiver wanted to send them here. He used the word every. And, really, the same thing happened with kicker, too. Why is that? If Jared Goff is such a bad quarterback, Eric, why do all these receivers agents want to send their receivers to Detroit?
Because he's putting up big numbers. And listen, all these fans of other teams all think they need to give me, a diehard Lions fan, a lesson on the history of the Detroit Lions. Well, I remember things, and I remember it all. And there's something I remember about free agents. Do you remember just a few years ago, just before Brad Holmes, there was a free agent tight end for the New England Patriots named Rob Gronkowski. And the Detroit Lions had a deal worked out to trade for Mr. Rob Gronkowski, and he put the kibosh to that deal. And he ended up going to Tampa Bay instead. He said he would rather retire than become a member of the Detroit Lions because that is where players go to die. That's the end of the line. That is the absolute last team he wanted to go to. Before Amon-Ra got here, he dreaded it on draft day when he looked down and saw the 313 number. That's not where he wanted to go. But you know what? It was the perfect place for him to go because he's had to earn it. And now he's turned into a fan favorite, and now he'd have it no other way. So I've seen the turnaround this last 3 years. It's been amazing. Players are going to want to come here now. And Brad has got the ability to say yes or no. And so far, he's kept saying no to free agents. And he's had his pick of the litter and his pick of who he wants to bring in. And it's kind of a nice thing. And I think he's kind of like a poker player. He's got that ace up his sleeve, and he's waiting to use that until the right time. He's not going to use it too early. He's not just going to start bringing in all these free agents just because he has the ability to. Doesn't mean he's going to start doing it right away. But when he absolutely needs to, and it's time, and we are in what he believes the Super Bowl window, and the time is right to bring in the right person, I wholeheartedly believe he will bring in the right free agent. And it might be through a trade. Like I said the other day, you might see Brad trade away a second round pick or a first round pick. It may happen in the next year or two. It might not happen right away, but it may happen eventually. And I don't think he's ever going to get to the F them picks mode where he just gives away all of his first and second round picks for the next 5 years like the Rams did. I don't think he's going to follow the Rams model. I think he's going to follow the Brad Holmes model, the model that he's making up on his way through.
Yeah, so I would agree with all that, man. And I would also agree that we need to get to a sponsor, and that I would also agree you guys need to smash that like button. We've got a 100 like streak going now for every show this week. We would super appreciate you guys smashing the like button. It really helps get this out to more Lions fans. It gets us into the algorithm. So when I don't run ads in the morning, YouTube kind of holds us back a little bit. So it thrives upon, you smashing the like button to get us out there. And let's get more Lions fans to join this channel through just subscription. If you want to join through memberships, that's up to you. We'd love to have you, in our meetings every week when we review game tape, and that would be level 2. But right now, smash that like button, get us to 100. We'll be right back after this message from our sponsor.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering Uper Lights, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from UperLights.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for Uper Lights with prices starting as low as $20. Please make sure to visit UperLights.com for all your UV flashlight needs with the best guarantees on the market. Just what you wanted and not what you didn't. The best quality, the best guarantees, and the best UV flashlights from UperLights.com.
All right, and we're back. How did we do? Did we get a bunch of more likes? We're getting there.
Let's see.
Got about 30 more to go, 33 more to go. You guys can do it. We got 110 people in here. We can get there. We would appreciate it. And so I keep ads off so you guys have that seamless experience, being able to watch or listen, while you're working this morning or whatever you're doing. And we should have plenty of guests coming up throughout the season. And that's where having no ads on really helps us. But some days I will have to throw ads on just for certain things that we do, certain events that I have to have some ads on. But for the most part, Monday through Friday right here on Rise and Grind Morning Show is ad free. We pay for that. And I kind of did the math. So it costs us about $3,000 a year, maybe more, but about $3,000 a year to leave ads off. So that's a big investment for us to do that. And we do it for you. So appreciate your help on the back end with liking the stream. So there's just a lot that we could talk about here. And I think this next statement by Brad Holmes, it really hit home because there's a lot of fans that wanted that big name free agent, right? The Danielle Hunters, the Chase Youngs. I even wanted Justin Simmons at a point because I felt like we needed that safety. We needed someone in that room to help get us, over the hump. Someone with veteran leadership. I expected Brian Branch to go back, but even then, it's like, how much were you going to pay for this guy? And he was worth about $10 million a year. I can't remember what he just signed for, but I don't think it was $10 million. Either way, we didn't get anybody that was a big name free agent other than I think DJ Reader's a pretty damn big free agent. Not only by size, but what he's been able to do in the NFL. He's been one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL when healthy. And Brad Holmes does Brad Holmes things. You hear it out there. He's the dollar store general. He goes out there and he gets all of these, less than sexy picks, or pickups or free agents, the injured bin, if you will, at Walmart, and doesn't want to pay for these guys. But you bring in a guy like DJ Reader who's going through rehab that gave us, a discount because he's going through rehab. To be able to bring somebody in like that for less than $15 million a season, it's pretty epic move by Brad Holmes when you can consider the upside and what's about to happen to this defensive line when he does make it into the game and he is back to 100%. You're going to see a dynamic shift in what this defensive line is going to be able to do, especially with what Aiden Hutchinson is going to be able to do moving forward. So Holmes said that he was proud that despite the increased interest from free agents, that the Lions front office stayed disciplined in its approach and did not feel any artificial pressure from a perceived championship window. And what he means by that, I'm guessing here, is he didn't feel this pressure to go out and have to sign a Danielle Hunter at $30 million a year. He didn't feel that pressure to go out and add, what has been a Brandon Ayuk, right, at $30 million a year. Nope, he wanted to stick with this guy, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And here is his statement. I'm proud of us that we've avoided mentally putting ourselves into that. And I think what he means there is putting us into that category of having to go out and shop big and have to pay through the nose for these guys, because that can really hurt your team on the back end. This quote goes on to say, we are being in a window And so we have to do something different from a roster standpoint. We've kept our approach and our process very consistent in terms of how we build it, the opportunities that we provide players, and that's what gives us confidence. We've been saying this from day one. We want to get better every single year. We've done that, and we plan to continue to do that. I wouldn't agree any more or less here. I think that is a very fair statement, that they're more than likely under an immense amount of pressure because this fan base, you know who you are, including myself at times, we are immediate gratification type of a fan base. If it doesn't happen right now, burn it down. If it doesn't happen right now, fire the coach. If it doesn't happen right now, get rid of the quarterback. That's not how you build a winning culture. That's not how you build a winning franchise. If you look around the league at the teams that have been successful, none of them have done that. Fire Aaron Glenn. I kept hearing that all year last year. And yeah, there was times where maybe some decisions that were made in games were a little bit suspect. But I backed Aaron Glenn up by saying the guy never really has had a full bevy of personnel to run the defense that we know that he wants to run. And I kept saying he wants to run an interior defensive line pressure, and he wants to run man-to-man on the backside of the defense. And this year, Aaron Glenn came out and said that exact same thing. The weight of the quarterback is through the middle of the defense, and you got to shut it down on the back end to give everybody on the outside a chance to do their magic. Now, that's not an exact quote, just paraphrasing what he said over multiple press conferences. But that's how you win. And if you look at the teams that win, they usually have those things pretty well in line. An interior defense that is pretty strong, a good linebacker, but definitely a couple of good DBs that can provide you that man-to-man coverage to give your defensive front a little bit of time. So again, I'm glad that Brad Holmes has stayed consistent. You know, Eric, they go back to this all the time, where they talk about that initial meeting. You know, it was Chris Spielman and I think Disner was there, and Sheila Hamp, Dan Campbell, and Brad Holmes, and you know, like they have this meeting, and out on a napkin comes the plan, the process, and they still have it. Jamo Wamo. They still have it. You know, that the plan and the process was simple, and they're sticking to it. They're sticking to their plan. And as long as they continue to be realistic with themselves, this is the team that you're going to get every single season as long as they can stay healthy. We can't do anything about health. And you definitely cannot blame a team that suffers injury bug. You can't. It's not Brad Holmes' fault. It is not Dan Campbell's fault. It is not Aaron Glenn's fault. But it is also how you rebound and how you transition away from those injuries and try to, you know, turn that around, if you will. That's where you can get blamed. And that's really why I'm not in the Emmanuel Mosley boat at all, because I feel it's just too risky. But he's also a DB right now that's not even needed. Like, that room is so stacked. We don't really ever need Mosley. And I do understand, and I've heard it from some of the fans in this chat, that Mosley is like an amazing mentor coach for these guys, especially the younger guys. So that I would agree with. And at $1 million a year, hey, he's an overpaid coach at this point, but that's okay. You need some of those guys sometimes, right? And so I'm not going to jump down, on top of Brad here and say that he's making a giant mistake, even though I feel like, there's room here for somebody else. It is what it is. He's not really counting against us, or for us at this point. So we'll just keep doing what we're doing well, and that is sticking to the plan. What are your comments on this?
Well, Will, I don't agree with every decision that Brad Holmes makes. Not at all. But you know what? He's a GM and I'm not. He knows what he's doing and I don't. I'm just a fan. And listen, this guy has done things in now his 4th season that no other GM has ever done in the history of our team. And for now, I have to trust in what he's doing. This guy gets it right. And listen, I watched the Hard Knocks New York Giants offseason, right? And you watch their GM through the whole offseason, through the combine, free agency, and the draft. That guy has no clue what he's doing compared to Brad Holmes. You can just tell the way he carries himself, the way he talks to people, and it's not even his football moves. When you play poker, you can tell when someone has certain tells, right? You can tell by the way they carry themselves, by the way they hold their cards, by the way they look at you, by the way when they're putting their chips in, their hand is shaking. You can tell whether that person, you can get a pretty good read on them, right? Well, same thing with watching these GMs on Hard Knocks. I watched the Giants GM and then Ryan Poles for the Bears. And you can see they don't carry themselves the way that Brad Holmes does. Because you watch Inside the Den and some of the Detroit Lions stuff from the draft and all of the press conferences from Brad Holmes, he talks differently. He carries himself differently. He has a confidence about him. He's unwavering. I don't think you could ever see him getting talked into doing something he doesn't want to do, where the other 2 GMs I was talking about, I watched them on film, on TV, getting talked into doing things they didn't want to do, and talking themselves into doing things that no one's pressuring them to do, like giving up Saquon Barkley for nothing, absolute nothing. They could have franchise tagged him and they didn't. And now they have a QB problem because they didn't go after a QB in the draft. And being indecisive is something that Brad Holmes doesn't do. And those other 2 GMs, you can watch it. Watch Hard Knocks. I tell you guys, all watch Hard Knocks. You will see those GMs are indecisive. They don't know what to do. They're like deer caught in the headlights. You see them in those moments on the show where they're like, what do I do? And you never see that out of Brad. He always has a plan and he implements it, puts it in place, and makes it happen. He knows what he's going to do. He's playing chess, not checkers. So he's thinking 2-3 moves ahead and staying on top of things, not just letting things flow into his lap. So when something happens, let's say there's an injury to, let's say, Frank Regno, and let's say he's, heaven forbid, knock on wood, he's out for the year, right? Well, Brad's already thought about this and has a backup plan written on a board somewhere in his office, where these other guys watching them, man, they would just be shell shocked. Oh my God, I can't believe my guy I've had forever just got hurt. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And that's not Brad. Brad is a man with a plan, and I have all the confidence in the world in him.
Dude, I would echo all of that. This is a great statement by Michael Lukes in here, though, too. And I want to touch on this. He says, just look at the pride that this staff shows when they talk to the media. This culture is working. People want to be here. This is amazing as a Lions fan to finally have this in Detroit. Spot on, Michael. Spot on. And
another thing, like I subscribe to Justin Rogers' thing there. And even he and all the other people that work for the Detroit media talk about what a great experience it is to now cover the Detroit Lions, because it didn't used to be. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these other teams don't treat their media well. And our whole coaching staff and Detroit Lions staff treat the Detroit media and the national media with respect and the way they should be treated.
Yeah, I would say that, when it's your job, that would always remove some of the fun. And there are some media members that are not fans of the Detroit Lions that cover the Lions. That's just their post. Like that's just their job. When it's your job and you're a Lions fan, that really changes things. But you can also tell, like there's a podcast out there that the individual is not a Lions fan, and you can tell, right? You can tell that this guy he just doesn't have it, right? I mean, you can always feel it. It's a different energy, and the same thing with the way that these writers write. You can tell when they're a fan. Some of the great ones you would never really know because they're just really great at what they do. Justin Rogers, clearly one of the best to do it, has been for a long time. And the way that he has done his work, you would never be able to tell that he was a fan that was having a rough day because of the way that the Lions, just lost 16 games. There might be some things said in some pieces, but ultimate professionalism in journalism is a dying art, and some do it well. A lot of people don't. The truth, the transparency, and the honesty factor is very difficult to find in media these days, and that is also one of the reasons why we try to do what we do here is stick to that moral code, if you will, that we want to give you the truth, the transparency, the topics. You're going to get opinions, but I'm also going to give you the facts to back up opinions. And when people publish these hit pieces, I'm going to try to combat it with stats and facts to tell you why that piece doesn't belong. We're seeing less and less of that this year, but there's been a couple here or there. I highlighted one, I think, last week. So you mentioned chestnut checkers. Look, I think that Brad Holmes is playing Battleship, and he knows where all your ships are, man. He knows because he's sinking them left and right. The same thing with these draft picks. It's like he has some level of information that the rest of these teams don't have, and that's either we've got some scout on this team, Brad Holmes, that just knows a lot more Brad Holmes than everybody else is Brad Holmes. Like this guy, you want to call a guy like a nerd with stats, like they used to call me a stat nerd because I would just go into the stats, the analytics, the KPIs, the measurables. I mean, that's what I did for 25 years, is in sales and high level executive sales. That's what you thrive off of to paint you a picture. But you know what I also did? I went and rode with my sales agents. I wanted to see what they look like in the field. Because if I didn't know what they look like, in battle, I can't correct it in a room with stats. I have to know you as an individual. That's exactly why Brad Holmes says, I have to know these guys. I'm not just going to bring in a random, top athlete because he's a top athlete. I have to know this individual. Just because you are great for the Minnesota Vikings or the Washington Commanders or the Patriots or whomever does not mean you're going to fit inside these four walls inside Allen Park. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be great for this Detroit Lions team. And that is the biggest question that I feel goes unanswered by a lot of GMs. And for some reason, Brad Holmes gets it right just about every time. Again, we can't penalize him for injuries, but we can penalize him for those lateral moves that he doesn't make at times. But you know what? Like, I'm 99% approval rate on what Brad Holmes has done. You can call me a homer for that, but you show me where he's really had an epic failure in 4 years. I don't see it. Especially when you look at the bottom half of every draft, and we've got diamonds. I mean, I went back a couple of years and looked at one of my old shorts, and I said that Brad Holmes was plucking diamond after diamond after diamond. This is what he's done. But you know how diamonds are created, right? Tell us, Eric, how are diamonds created?
Pressure.
They don't start out as a beautiful diamond, but through pressure and cultivation, they do. They turn into something. But then you have to, polish it up. Put those little intricate cuts in there to make it shine just right. And that's what happens when they come into this team and they start working with the trainers and they start working with the staff and they go to all the positional groups and they get all their work in. And over time, what started out as an ugly rock, right? Or is now this beautiful diamond. that's starting to express itself on the field. Brad Holmes gets it, man. He is finding these guys, and he knows with just a little bit of pressure, a little bit of cultivation, a lot of hard work, and that internal fire inside that player that loves football, you can find a role with the Detroit Lions and just do your damn job. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Just do your own job. And if you can do that, this team will be successful. And that's what we're seeing right now. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the next one. Again, we're almost there. 83 likes right now. We got 17 more to go. I know you guys can get there.
Oh yeah, we got 121 watching right now.
Just pause a minute from the live chat or wherever you're watching and listening from, and head on over and smash that like button, please. Oh, sorry, I cut you off there, Eric. My bad. I got you on there.
Oh, Creator Civis, he says your channel, every time I watch it, buffers a lot. That's got to be on your end, buddy, because I'm watching it on my phone right now. Hasn't buffered once today.
So if you're watching it, and I know there's options that you can watch it. Like right now, let me go to the quality options. So you can watch it in 1080p 60. That will buffer. If you don't have the streaming capability, that will buffer. If you watch it in 720 60, it's a much better experience for most people. I've got to fix that stream key today, and I will have it fixed over the weekend here, so that you guys have more options with the 4K and the 1444 or whatever the other ones are. But the 1080p by 30 is the one that you guys really need, and I don't know why it's not popping up. So I will try to fix that, but just watch it in a little bit lower quality, and you shouldn't have any more buffering.
Or get awesome internet like me.
Yeah, but not everybody has that opportunity though either.
Yeah, I know.
So, all right, roster for the rest of the day, again, sponsored by Pro Sports Zone. We've got the season premiere kickoff event on September 7th, Laurel Park Place Mall in Livonia, 37700 6 Mile Road. Get in there at 10 a.m. We're going to be starting at 10:30. Spin the wheel. There's going to be a baseline discount just for showing up in the store. There's going to be some giveaways. There's going to be door prizes. And I've got 20 or 30 to give away at least. And we're talking prizes that range between $20 and $60, value. So we're not giving away a small amount. You'll be able to donate to Rockdown Cancer Foundation. You also get some great discounts on the best gear that you can't even find online. You can't find this stuff online, the stuff that he has. So get in there. You can get Michigan stuff, Michigan State, Red Wings, Detroit Tigers, Lions, whatever you want to get. It's there at Pro Sports Zone. Meet me there on September 7th. I'll be starting the podcast at 10 a.m. There will be an extra chair and an extra mic just for you. So if you'd like to pop into the show and talk your Detroit Lions for a few minutes, come on in. You're more than welcome. So what did we not get to yet? So we talked about the destination, the land of opportunity, the new safety that was added. Let's talk about him for a minute. Detroit Lions fans, #1 in the world. So Brad Holmes made it abundantly clear that the Detroit Lions fans are, bar none, the best fans in the world. In the poll that we did this morning, I'm not surprised. It's a Lions channel. There's only one negative vote in here, and we know who that's from. But 98% of fans believe we are the best fans in the world. Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we believe that? I mean, when you've heard what we did at the LA game and the Bucs game, but that LA game was something different. Week 1 of this year is going to be the best game that anyone's ever been to in Ford Field. I promise you that. It's going to be even better than the postseason Week 1 game, or the postseason, first game of the season, first game of the postseason versus the Rams last year. And the reason why I'm saying this is because this is the only national media attention that we've actually gotten that has been good from everywhere. Even Sean McVay said that for 2 full weeks leading up to this game, that they are practicing in certain conditions to mimic what they experienced at Ford Field, because it was so incredible. And he said it was the best environment he's ever been in. So he didn't throw us any shade. Matter of fact, he said that the Lions fans, we did it right. I mean, we showed up, and 2 hours before this game, more than 60% of that stadium was full. That's never happened. The minute they opened the doors, I mean, it was really cold too. So of course everyone wanted to get inside, but that stadium was packed. And we started off, I mean, early with the Jared Goff chants, but early with just being there and showing up. And when these guys are coming out to do their pregame warmups, and they're looking around like, I've never come out here in pregame warmups with this many fans. You might have 5,000 fans kind of bopping around, but you're talking 25, 30,000 fans were in their seats, ready to rock and roll a couple hours before the game. And then an hour before the game, we're almost at capacity. And then we start breaking decibel records. And Sean McVay and that team was not prepared for this. I mean, Matt Stafford knew that, yeah, it's a pretty rocking environment, but he's never seen it like this. Unfortunately, he couldn't give us a home playoff game. That's why we're the best fans, man. We show up. We are hungry. Absolutely. But this is who we are. When we support something, we get behind it 1,000%. That's why I know, and not to be silly here, but you know, even with my Rocked On Cancer Foundation, I know that this is the best community, the most supportive community out there that will help us get to our goal this year. Even just sharing the information with other people is more than helpful. You don't have to donate $1. I will still get it there. But what we're going to do week 1 this year is going to be epic. And that's why we are the best fans to be behind this team. We've been patient. Yep. We've had the version of SOL that infected this Detroit Lions team for 30 years. You know, every year it's, yeah, we're going to be great. In week 1, it's sell the team. And that's no more. That is absolutely no more. SOL is not needed. And the rest of the fans are drowning out the noise because it's just noise at this point. You're either all in or you're all out, in my opinion. And you've got to be all in at this point. So best fans in the world, and Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes both don't mince words by calling us the most passionate fan base. And Brad Holmes' statement was this: I've lived in different cities with football teams, and this is no shot at them, but this is completely different than I've ever experienced in my entire life. I truly mean that. I'll never forget when I first found out that I was going to come to an interview for this role. My uncle, Luther Bradley, that played here, he told me, Brad, this is a fan base. They are about as passionate as it gets. I thought that's what you're supposed to say, right? You know, the coach speak, the GM speak, you get up there and you tell everybody, hey, I appreciate you. You guys are great. You're excellent. But no, to continue on in his statement here, he says, but no, it truly, I would put our fan base up versus anybody in the league and have full confidence that we are the most passionate. I guess I was a little naive when I first got this job. I was just thinking about the work we had to do. I did not think somebody would stop me in the street. He went on to say that me and my family were walking down the street. We were living in Birmingham when we first got here, and we were walking down to a restaurant, and people were stopping us. I had no idea. I thought I would just be the behind the scenes guy that would just help build the team. Me and my family were shocked. We were thinking, okay, that's a one-off, but it kept happening. And this is all while a 3-win season. Now, during a 3-win season, it was not, Brad, get the heck out, or it was like, hey, I'm riding with you. That's a special group, and it's always been positive. And I have the utmost appreciation and respect for our fan base. I absolutely love living in the city. I know Ray, he's echoed the same. We talk about it constantly. Not sure we had any expectations, honestly. We just knew we had a job to do. But the way that they've embraced us, and we've truly embraced the city, I don't have a pair of glasses yet, but I'm going to get some soon, was his last statement. I didn't understand the glasses statement I asked the chat yesterday, and if you do join the channel, you do get an opportunity to join the blue zone chat on Voxer. And I mean, they told me right away it was getting some buffs like Gretchen Whitmer, Governor Gretchen Whitmer at the draft. I had no idea that this was going on behind the scenes. And immediately I'm like, okay, why don't we just send Brad Holmes a pair of glasses? Like, I'm not going to buy him, $1,300 pair of Cartiers, but I went looking on Amazon, and I'm definitely thinking about sending him some just to be funny. I know he's getting some through a local jeweler, Hutch's Jewelry or something like that. I think that's the name. But yeah, I think it would be fun just to send him a pair and see if he rocks them on a press event. He probably won't, but I think the thought's kind of fun. So best fans in the world, man. I believe it. Best fans in the NFL. Absolutely. We've gone through hell and high water for this team, and it's about time that we have something to be prideful about and happy about, excited about, and supportive is an understatement, right? Just being supportive. I mean, 25 years of season tickets, over 60 years in my family. That's just a little bit of support, y'all. I mean, that's a ton of monetary investment on our behalf. Traveling 3 hours each way to, every game. I mean, it's a lot. And I know that fans like, Eric, I mean, he travels all the way up from up north, 6-hour trip, Megan Stefanski and, one of the faces of the super fans, she travels all the way from the UP.
Yeah.
So
the road for me.
Yeah, it's incredible what our fans will do. I mean, the ones that hop on a plane to come and make a game this year, the ones that rode with us all the way out to San Francisco last year. Like, that was a trip of a lifetime for us as Lions fans last year. And now that trip is going to be the Super Bowl. I've always said it. I wouldn't care if I ever had to mortgage a house to go to the Super Bowl. I'm going. But thankfully, as a Lions season ticket holder, we do get an opportunity to get a discounted Super Bowl ticket. But it's limited, very limited amount of opportunity that we do get. All right, yep. I'll turn it over to you now about the fans, and then we've got a couple more topics to round out the day.
Well, there's a couple things. There are tickets available on the secondary market still through Ticketmaster for the Detroit Lions versus the Los Angeles Rams. The cheapest ticket going right now is $246 on Ticketmaster. Pretty pricey, right? Well, the average price is right around $800 for a ticket for the game, and the Lions have not yet given out or released standing room only tickets, and that's going to happen, and they're going to sell out. That place is going to be rocking. If you get a chance, go to the game. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be absolutely incredible. And anyone that is in the Voxer chat knows that I placed a certain bet on our Detroit Lions yesterday. I placed a pretty good sized bet on the Detroit Lions, and if they happen to make the Super Bowl, I'm going to have a big chunk of my Super Bowl ticket paid for through this little bet that I made yesterday. So I do put my money where my mouth is sometimes. And this year, I really do believe in my Detroit Lions. And Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, they've done nothing but come through with the faith for me. As a Lions fan, I see nothing but sunshine and rainbows coming our way. Now, we're going to have some bumps along the road. I'm sure we will. We always do, no matter what. Every team does. Even the two-time NFL champion Kansas City Chiefs, they hit a few bumps in the road last year. They lost their first game to the Detroit Lions last year. So don't get completely down if we do happen to lose a game early on. We have a team that can make it back from it. They have grit. They know it takes more, and they're going to make it happen. I can't wait for next Sunday at 8:20 p.m. for kickoff. I'm going to be sitting in section 141 right down by the tunnel. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a fantastic time, and I can't wait to see all you guys there.
So next up, I want to talk about the land of opportunity. I guess I really didn't touch on that a whole lot, and it kind of mixes with, the new safety that was added, and we'll discuss that right now. So the Detroit Lions have been a very unique team where for more than 15 seasons, we've had a UDFA on this roster. And I think that prior to the last couple of seasons, we didn't have a choice because we had to assemble a team. And, we didn't have all of these free agents rushing, like I was talking about earlier, to knock down the door to get in to play for Detroit. So, yeah, we had more UDFAs on this roster than probably what most teams would have. It's not very often that a UDFA makes a roster. But the Lions, for 15 consecutive years, have had one on the roster to start the season. But this year is different. We have 3 undrafted free agents on this roster. Isaiah Williams came in, balled out. I called it from day one that we signed that kid, that he was my dark horse to make this roster, and he did. And you know how I was able to understand that was going to happen? I just went and watched the tape. That's it. I knew who he was coming in. And I knew that if he had an opportunity, that he would do something with it, just based on what I watched. Super happy to see that this kid's going to be able to develop in Detroit with some of the best quarterback play and other receivers around him that he's going to be able to model his game around. Lauren Strickland made the 53-man roster, a former Ball State player. Ball State. I don't even know where Ball State is. But he obviously embodies the toughness, right? The grit of the Motor City and the people of this city. It just makes plays. He just puts himself in position to make plays. And then the guy that Eric called, Hogan Hatton. He said that he was going to win that long snapper position. I said he was crazy. No way Daly's going to lose to this. But here's another one. Unseated the incumbent, John or Daly. Not an easy task, but he did it because he was versatile, right? A positional villain that Brad Holmes loves. So you talk about the land of opportunity in Detroit, and it's alive and well, not just for this team, but for the city of Detroit that is now thriving again. So it's synonymous that these two things kind of go hand in hand. Now, for the last part of this, the Lions did also make a few roster moves in the last 24 hours. On Thursday evening, they had signed safety Eric Hallett to their practice squad. Now, Hallett occupies Detroit's 16th and final spot on the practice squad, although they still do have an open spot on the 53-man roster. This has been the weirdest week of roster cutdowns that I've ever seen in Detroit with these open positions. Hallett was waived by the Jacksonville Jaguars earlier this week. He was drafted by the team in the 6th round of the 2023 draft, spent all of his rookie season on the practice squad. This article coming to you from Pride of Detroit. A 5'11", 190-pound Hallett has some versatility as both a safety and a nickel corner. Comes from Pittsburgh College. He was a 2-year starter, but also played significant special teams in the 2 years prior to that. So I think that there's your pathway, right? He's a special teamer, and that's where he's going to get an opportunity this year. He finished his college career with 31 straight starts for the Panthers, Pittsburgh Panthers, that was, logging 12 pass breakups, 3 interceptions, and forced 2 fumbles in each of the last 2 seasons. In each of the last 2 seasons. That's 24 pass breakups, 6 interceptions, and 4 forced fumbles in the last 2 seasons. This guy's a ball hawk. This guy puts himself in position to win. And I can't remember. So he came from Jacksonville, which means he probably has experience with Deshae Townsend. Right?
Yeah.
He had to have seen what this guy can do. So I think that, this, again, it's a land of opportunity. The Lions are finding these guys wherever they can find them, but they're making incredible moves to bring in guys that fit the culture, right? Fit the identity, and guys that maybe other teams aren't paying attention to as much because they're so focused on the big names, right? The mid-tier names. Some of the guys that haven't done enough just yet, they kind of get forgotten about. But not to Brad Holmes, man. Not to Detroit. this is an area where you can come and make a name for yourself. But as of right now, the Detroit Lions only have one defensive back on the practice squad. And that said, they currently have 11 defensive backs on the 53-man roster. And, this was a roster that I think I initially projected 10 to 12. I can't remember now what I put on Twitter, but it's there. I mean, the receipts are there. Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold, Amik Robertson, which there is a spelling error there, Jeremy, on Amik Robertson. Ennis Rakestraw, Khalil Dorsey, Kendall Vildor, Brian Branch, Lauren Strickland, Kirby Joseph, Ifeatu Melifonwu, and Brandon Joseph. Still no news on Ifeatu Melifonwu. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't heard anything. Maybe we'll hear something today. Maybe we'll hear something the next time these guys take the mic next week when injury reports start to fly. But again, the land of opportunity is alive and well in Detroit. And you know what? We do things with these guys. Like, these guys just don't come here to do nothing. They come here with the expectation that they need to crack the 53-man roster throughout the season. That somehow these guys will get an opportunity to play. So our practice squad is just an extension of our 53. And Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have both said that. This is a team of 69. This is not a team of 53 with some guys over to your right. No, this is a team of 69. They want the best 69 ball players on this roster that can be utilized at some point throughout this season. Any comments on this?
Just that, listen, even the guys on the practice squad, they have to know that any day an injury can happen and they get called up, right? So these guys on the practice squad, just because they're making less money doesn't make them any less a member of this team. They're in every meeting all week long. They're in every practice. They're running the scout teams. They're helping on special teams. They're helping insert new plays. They're helping every day, and they have to be ready at a moment's notice to jump right on in there. And I think that the Detroit Lions not only make this a team, but they make it a family. So becoming part of this family, even if it is on the practice squad, man, it's a big, giant opportunity. And look how many people we had to bring up from the practice squad the last couple of years. It happens quite often, and our practice squad moves a lot. We have people that we take off, put back on, take off, put back on. Look at TK85, Tom Kennedy. I mean, this kid's been on the practice squad so many times and been on the 53-man roster so many times. Dan Skipper, same thing. And now they've done it so many times. Look at Dan Skipper. He made the initial 53. He is on the team. So do hard work, stay a member of the family, and the Lions will eventually take care of you. You'll eventually get in. If you keep your nose to the grind, you'll make it, man. Just have that grit factor, the it factor, and they will see it.
All right, so let's finish off here with, we'll do 53-man roster updates the last 5 minutes. There's really not a whole lot there, but 10 takeaways now by Tim Twentyman. So Tim put out his takeaways following the Brad Holmes and Ray Agnew press conference. And there might be a little overlap here in some of the things that we've already spoken about. But there's a good question from Big Papa in here. Let me do this one first.
Yeah.
So he says, off topic, but how the heck would Brad Holmes handle the Trent Williams issue? I think it's a little bit more simple than it needs to be for Brad Holmes. It wouldn't have never been an issue. If Trent Williams is somebody that they want on that team and they have value in this guy and he's proven to be worth it, Brad Holmes would never let it become an issue. Case point, Penei Sewell. Another case point, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jared Goff. He is not afraid to pay players what they are worth. And to some fans and media outlets, that may be too much. Oh, well. Brad Holmes has not failed us yet, in my opinion. So I don't think that Brad Holmes would ever let these things get in the way. The only thing that I would add to that is that we have we don't even have issues like with Lee McNeil right now. Clearly, he's in the last season of his contract. No new contract has been put together yet. Very early in the offseason, they spoke about getting something done, that they want a Lee McNeil on this team for the future. And there was early conversations that there was communication between both sides, his agent and, the Lions front office. Well, Lee McNeil stated on a couple of podcasts that he wants nothing to do with it. He doesn't want to be involved in it. He just wants to play football. And that is the exact right mentality to have in this situation. Don't get involved in it, because you know what? You may not like the things that are said about you, because in these negotiations, not that this is an indictment on any player, but they're going to tell that agent, look, we love the guy. He does all of these things right. This is why we want him on this team. Here are the cons, though. These are the comparables. This is what we haven't seen yet. And to some players, they internalize that, right? And then every day they wake up and it's like, that dude said, what about me? That my first step was lazy? But even though they didn't mean it that way, I mean, that's just what the tape might identify at times. And I'm not saying Aleem's got a lazy first step. That's not what I'm saying. That was just an example. So yeah, just, Aleem's going to keep grinding. And if we were to have those issues, number one, you want guys on your team that want to be there. And that starts where? It starts by drafting the right players. The guys that want to play for you, the guys that have belief in the system, that are growing within the system, that are doing well on the field, those are the guys that are going to stick around. And when a contract doesn't get done right away, yeah, they could hold out or hold in, not show up. We have yet to see that happen in Detroit in the last 4 seasons. I know that there was some rumor, clickbaits going on, that Amon-Ra St. Brown was going to hold out. I can't believe, again, that non-Lions fan even said that this year. I never heard that from Amon-Ra St. Brown. Never got the inkling that was going to happen. So why say it? Why put it out there? Unless you hear it from the agent and the player, it doesn't exist. And that's what happens too much in media today, is people just want clicks, because that's what this is all about. And so they make up these wild propaganda stories, and then that starts fueling the fire, and then you start to see a problem. You don't want that stuff to infect the locker room. And that's why media is so important to your team as well, because if you have local media, local creators pumping this wild information, at some point it could become reality, because if that player or that agent hears it, they're like, you know what, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, we should probably do that. Why not? It's already been said. Might as well follow through now. That's why you got to be careful what you say and what you put out there. To a degree. Have your opinions, say it's an opinion. But don't say it's fact unless it's a fact. But I know I'm going off here on the downslope, but this stuff doesn't happen in Detroit, Big Papa, because they handle things the right way. 3 more likes, says Lions fan 76. 3 more likes. It's all we need to continue our streak today. Can we get 3? Just 3 likes. That's it. And we hit 100.
That'll be 10 days in a row.
That'd be awesome. And so here's the 10 takeaways from Tim Twentyman in 10 minutes, right? Number 1, when it came to Hendon Hooker winning the backup quarterback job, Holmes said the more reps Hooker got in camp, the more confident Hooker got. And subsequently, the more confident the team got in his ability to be Jared Goff's backup. Some of the adversity Hooker dealt with in college at Virginia Tech and Tennessee got Hooker wired right, according to Holmes. And the team feels confident in his progression and continued development. Also, on the quarterback front, Holmes said Jake Fromm earned a spot on the practice squad with his compete level and ability to impress in just a short amount of time being in camp. Two statements from me on this. One on Jake Fromm. I might be an idiot, and you could agree with that. You can give us a thumbs up for that if you'd like. I might be an idiot here, but this just dawned on me last night when I was reading some of this stuff. Brad Holmes said Jake Fromm was brought in for insurance. And then I started hearing the Jake Fromm State Farm comments. And I don't know if those were meant to be linked together, that he was brought in for insurance for Hooker being injured, or if that statement kind of came out after the fact, or if it was started at the very beginning. But it dawned on me last night. I'm like, oh, I get it now. Jake, I mean, not only is it Jake from State Farm, I get that part too, but the insurance component to this just lined up to me. I don't know. I arrived late. I was probably born late too. Jared Goff in Hendon Hooker being the 1-2 right now. This is the right punch for the Lions to enter the season. 15 seconds. Eric, what do you think about that statement?
Hey, Jake Fromm, come on, man. The guy loves being in Detroit. He was only here for a week, and he battled his way onto the practice squad and beat out Nate Sudfeld. Nate Sudfeld did not have the it factor. Jake Fromm went 6 of 8 in the fourth quarter. I know it was against lesser competition, but he still did way better. He had the it factor, something Sudfeld did not have. Oh, and by the way, Jake Fromm hates the whole Jake from State Farm thing. He absolutely hates it. So don't make up a sign for him.
All right, we did it. 100 likes again.
Oh, right on.
So is that 10 days in a row in like 15 shows now? I think
it's 10 shows in a row.
10 shows in a row?
20
Okay.
shows, yeah.
All right. Well, that's amazing. Appreciate you guys doing that. So number 2, Agnew expects big things from the third wide receiver, Jameson Williams. Agnew said that Williams has grown exponentially over the last 2 seasons, and that was really noticeable when he reported back to Detroit in the offseason. Both Agnew and Holmes talked about Williams' commitment to maturing both on and off the field, which is something that I have spoken about a few times here. And I think that the adversity that Williams faced his first 2 seasons with the knee rehab and the gambling suspension was a blessing in disguise. It forced Williams to take a more mature approach to football, and the Lions have seen the benefits of that this offseason and in training camp. My quick thoughts on this. Williams even said it himself that his work with Teddy Bridgewater in this offseason and when Teddy came to the team last year started to rub off on him in a way that he thought about the game differently. In the beginning, he wanted it to be all about him. He wanted to be the highlight. He wanted to be, that number one kind of guy. But he wasn't there yet. Like you're not going to beat out Amon-Ra St. Brown, year one. That's for sure. May never happen. But learning how to take a backseat approach and maturing is something that Jameson Williams needed to do. Not understanding the playbook when he came in year 1, the gambling suspension year 2, things kind of stacked up against him. And this is when players usually derail. Not JMO. He dug deep. He continued to develop. And now he needs to unlock me because I've said nothing but positivity about this guy for 3 months now. So JMO, congratulations. You've arrived. I can't wait to see what you're going to do this season. I think the biggest part of his game going forward is that he just wants to fit a role. That's it. He just wants to be a role player. He wants to help this team win. He is now matured. He's entered another level into adulthood, right? Which, I think I just matured 2 years ago, to be honest with you. It's it's fun to watch these things happen in real time. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that had a lot of doubt about JMO. And there's a lot of people that still have doubt about JMO. And I still want to see it on the field. And I expect to see it on the field. Go ahead.
Yep. As a fan, I like to do a little bit of this, a little bit of talking, right? And the 2 players I talk about the most, JMO and Jake Bates, those are the 2 players that I get the most flack about. So I'm going to kind of keep my mouth shut. I'm just going to say, hey, when I get to cash these receipts, it's going to be a whole lot of fun. JMO and Jake Bates are going to have some good seasons. I can't wait for it to get here. I'm just looking forward to great seasons from both of them.
You know, quickly on your Jake Bates thing here, which I don't know if he's mentioned in this, he might be. You know, when we noticed him from the first game of the UFL, knocking that, what was it, a 62-yarder game winner or something like that from week 1.
2 times in a row being iced.
We wanted Jake Bates to get an opportunity in Detroit. Didn't know he would win the opportunity. Just wanted him to get an opportunity, and it happened. And then, you know, he misses a few, right? And then you have a lot of creators and media people saying, oh, this is a mistake. Like, the guy's no good. And all you've heard from Brad Holmes, even in that press conference, I believe, was Jake he's only grown, right? The more opportunity they gave him, the better he got and the more confident he got. And he never wavered. Like, missing a field goal did not affect him. I know some people take that the wrong way. Like, well, shouldn't he be upset that he missed one? No, you can't be upset. You cannot have negative energy in your head, especially when you are a super sub specialist as a kicker. You know, there's only so many people that do this. You have to have the ability to have a short-term memory. You miss it, so what? The next time I go in, I'm going to make it. That's the mentality. Identify what you did wrong. Don't do it again. Number 3, Holmes didn't have any problem getting veteran receivers Tim Patrick and Allen Robinson to sign on the practice squad. Holmes said that agents of receivers know how explosive the Lions offense can be, and the opportunity that is here with just 4 receivers currently on the 53-man roster. The Lions were impressed with Patrick's ability to come back from a torn ACL and a torn Achilles to make some of the plays that he did in the preseason for Denver. Holmes said that he wanted to sign Robinson when he was a free agent a couple years ago and is glad to do so on the practice squad now. Just an overall thought about the receiver core. Holmes made a point that he feels good about the current makeup because of the top 3, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Williams, and Raymond, but also because of Goff having a dominant O-line and the 2 running backs that they employ and Sam Laporta at tight end. That is a mouthful, I tell you what. Offensive football is a team effort, and Holmes is completely confident in the entire group getting it done. My few points on this would be very simple. 1, Allen Robinson wanted nothing to do with us 2 years ago. My, how times have changed. So welcome to the pride, both Tim Patrick and Allen Robinson. And I couldn't agree more that, you know, both sides of this team are a team game. But our offense is absolutely loaded. And even being a 4th wide receiver on this roster, you're going to have some opportunities. It's just what you do with those opportunities that matters most. I'm excited to see how this develops now through the next week of practice and who rises above to make this roster. Eric, go for it.
Yeah, so you have 2 receivers that came in on the practice squad, Allen Robinson and Tim Patrick, both interesting, both over 6 foot tall, both that wide body receiver with the big wingspan, and both coming off not the best season or 2. And what a redemption story. This could be the final going off into the sunset for one of these guys, right? Win that Super Bowl and ride off into the sunset. This could be their opportunity to do that. And we're going to find out in the next week or so by Sunday, September 8th, which one of these guys is going to be that 53rd man. And I think that's why they have that open spot on the 53 right now, because they don't know which one is going to be brought up yet. They need to practice this week. They need to figure it out. Who can click with Goff the fastest? Who can fit this team the best? And it's not very often that I clamor for any free agent to come to the Lions. And for some reason, Tim Patrick was the one that I wanted to come to the Lions. And I watched a little bit of his preseason tape. He looks good again. He looks like he did 2 years ago before he hurt his MCL and his ACL, and before he hurt his Achilles. He looks like a man on a mission. And I tell you what, that's what I wanted to see. I want to see someone that needs redemption, someone that has the grit factor, the it factor that I talk about all the time. You can see it. You can see the electricity when they get the ball in their hands. So not very often do I want a free agent. And this is one of the first times that I ever wanted one, and they actually got picked up. So we'll see if it works out for me or not. I'm hoping it does.
All good points. So number 4, how important was it to sign Goff, St. Brown, Penei Sewell to big contracts this offseason? Not only was it key to get them done early to get ahead of the ever-growing price of the newly signed contracts, but Agnew made a good point, coming from a former player's perspective, that those deals are huge for the locker room. When an organization takes care of its top players deserving of big deals, it sends a clear message throughout the locker room that they are playing for an organization that will take care of them if they put in the work and have the results on the field. Not much really to say here, but I agree. This does send the message. Come in, do your job, put your head down, perform, and you get paid. As long as there's room for you on the roster, they'll figure out a way to make it work. Eric?
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Like Tim Patrick and Allen Robinson. Man, if you have value and you have something to provide this team and you're willing to be a team player, be a family member, and have the grit it factor, you are going to work out and you will get that opportunity.
Yeah, I don't think that that's going to happen for Allen, but Patrick could be in line for, some sort of an extension if he does perform. Number 5, who could be in line for the next extension? We just spoke about this, about Alim McNeill is probably up next, but Holmes said that he and McNeill's representation haven't had any intense talks just yet. And those negotiations are just in the infancy stages. So like I said earlier, it started off in the very beginning of the offseason that there was some conversations, but there just hasn't been much going. I'm not really concerned about this. I think that they want to see what Alim McNeill can do. And this is the only thing that I will say about this where it could hurt us. It's always going to be great when your player plays great and has an amazing season. But Alim McNeill is about to have an incredible season next to DJ Reader. Just adding a guy like DJ Reader to this team, it's going to make your team better when he's on the field. So if Alim McNeill has a breakout season that he does, or if he does have a breakout season this year, his price just went way up. You sign him now, I think that the price is probably fair. But if you sign him next year and he has an incredible season, you may not be able to afford him now. And that's where I think it could bite us that this deal is not done. So what are they waiting for? I don't know. This one is a little baffling. 10 seconds on Alim McNeill.
Just a war chest thing. I think it's probably going to get done during the season. I know they don't like to do contracts during the season all that much, but I wouldn't be surprised week 2, week 3, week 4, Alim gets done. And, it can go from 0 to a million miles really fast with these contracts. You can hear that, there's nothing happening with Alim's contract. And then the next day, oh man, he got $14 million a year for 3 years. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it happen during the season and see it happen very fast.
Number 6, when veteran kicker Michael Badgley injured his hamstring early in camp and was lost for the season, Holmes said that they made the decision to go solely with Jake Bates and not sign another kicker because they were really intrigued by the unknown with Bates and wanted him to get all the reps. Holmes said that Bates is wired the right way for a kicker, and they like his development so far. That being said, Holmes did say they'll look to sign a veteran kicker to the practice squad. I think that's a very smart move. I kind of, said this one a little bit earlier. This was all the right move. Get Jake, the opportunity. I was a little bit worried or concerned that, he's basically played 2 seasons, kind of half a season already with the UFL, and now he's entering a full camp and a full season with the Lions. I just hope it does not impact his leg, with fatigue. I don't know what the fatigue factor would be like for a kicker. But getting all the reps and playing, basically a season and a half in 1 year, that's a lot. 10 seconds on Jake.
So I would just tell everybody, unless you've seen Jake Bates kick in person, don't just believe everything you hear in the media, because on the day that Will and I went to training camp, The very last play of the day was a 64-yard field goal by Jake Bates that cleared the halfway up the field goal post, right? Would have been good from 70. And if you read some stories from that day, Jake Bates had a horrible day. And then you read some other stories from that day, Jake Bates was amazing that day. So it all depends on which media outlet that you go to get your news from, whether Jake Bates had a good day or not. Don't believe what the media says. Trust your eyeballs. Watch what he actually does. And when he does hit that 55-yarder, watch how high up that set of field goal posts that ball's going through. It'll blow your mind sometimes just how far this kid can kick the ball.
Yeah, all fair statements, man. That's why truth, honesty, and transparency is hard to find in media right now. But those are opinions too. You know, they may feel like he didn't have a great day. Yeah, he missed half of his field goal attempts during what was a terrible practice. I mean, extremely hot, sticky, and wet out there for those guys. It was a tough day, but you're not kicking 15 field goals in a game. At least I hope you don't. Yeah. Number 7, Holmes and Agnew couldn't say enough good things about the Detroit Lions fan base. We've kind of already covered this one. They previously, compares a football city and the passion of the fan base together, that it's certainly not surprising to any of us as Michiganders. Holmes is determined to bring the Lions faithful a Lombardi trophy. And if you want to join the Lions faithful, memberships are open. Feel free to hit the join button. It's only $3.99 to get into the Lions faithful membership. We're gonna do a lot of fun stuff this year. $9.99 gets you into the post game all 22 condensed review, which will happen typically the day or 2 days after the game when we can actually schedule it. It just depends on when it's released and when I have time to fit it in, but we'll do it every week. Number 8. It's pretty rare that 3 undrafted rookies make an initial 53-man roster. We kind of covered this one already. That has a legitimate Super Bowl opportunity that the Detroit Lions do. But Agnew said that wide receiver Isaiah Williams, safety Lawrence Strickland, and long snapper Hogan Hatton all earned their spots on the roster with their play in training camp and the preseason, and he expects each to make an impact in their early roles. I love the fact that Brad Holmes went above and beyond here and said earned. They were not given. These guys just didn't show up in camp and were given an open spot, because no spots were open until the last week of camp. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell said that there was maybe 5 open positions, which 2, maybe 3 of those positions were the wide receiver room. The fact that all 3 of these guys made it, I'm not surprised for a couple of reasons. One, the coaching staff development of our players is a real thing now in Detroit. And 2, Brad brings in the right guys. Every guy he brings in has an opportunity. 10 seconds to you.
Yeah. Listen, these undrafted free agent players, what an amazing opportunity for them. And somebody put, Eric, you're starting to look like an actual lion. Yeah, it's this big old giant thing. But listen, these guys, they're given the opportunity of a lifetime. But I think the quality of the undrafted free agents that we're bringing in is much higher than the ones that we were getting before. We're paying for some of these, like, what was it? Over $200,000 they gave to Isaiah Williams to come to the Lions. They gave him a good chunk of change. And there's a reason. Brad saw that he was one of the better undrafted free agents and brought him in. And man, Brad has the eye for talent. That's all that tells me is Brad and his scouting department, they're doing their jobs on all these guys, not just the draftable guys.
Number 9, it was too bad. The second-year wide receiver Antoine Green suffered a serious concussion that led him to being waived with an injury designation a few weeks back. Holmes said it came right around the time Green was starting to separate himself from the rest of the bunch for the 4th wide receiver role. Again, this was, and I don't think that Brad Holmes is just saying that. I said it early. I know a lot of people did not believe in Antoine Green being a 7th round pick. A lot of people said that he wasn't even going to make this roster. I never thought for a minute that Antoine Green wouldn't have made this roster, and this proves it. Brad Holmes said that this guy was separating himself as the number 4. We may not have Allen Robinson or Tim Patrick on this roster right now if Antoine Green is still healthy. So you just can't discredit the guys that we draft. I could tell pre-draft, before we drafted Antoine Green, he was never on my radar. But after we selected him and watching his tape and then realizing that he was Drake May's pretty much his number 1, sometimes his number 2 option, the guy's explosive. He'll probably be back next year, is my guess. I don't know how this will work, that he's released with an injury designation or waived with an injury designation. I don't think he's obviously been picked up by anybody. I don't think anyone would pick him up at this point. But there is a potential for him to come back. We'll just see how long it takes. And I think that he has some sort of a neck issue too. It wasn't just a concussion. And I hope it's not career ending. I really hope not, because he had so much upside. 10 seconds on Antoine Green.
Yeah, I'm so disappointed that this kid was injured, but injuries are a part of the game. And look at Levi O and some of these other guys, Josh Paschal, that have had some injuries and had to work their way back. It's going to be the same for this kid.
All right. Last one here. Number 10. This team is definitely in a different spot now than where it was when Holmes took over. 3 years ago, he said he had to do some selling and convincing to get free agents to sign here. Now Holmes said Detroit's become a place agents want to send their players. This is not a surprise to me. We've been watching the evolution. That's why I chose my words carefully this year when I put the intro and outro together. And we've heard that same word now echoed by Dan Campbell in some of his press conferences. We've heard it from Brad Holmes, that the evolution of this team is real. And as teams evolve, they either get better or they get worse. This team has only gotten better year over year, week after week. They're doing it the right way. Eric, what do you think about the evolution of this team from 21 till now? Where are we headed in 2024?
We're headed for a Super Bowl, and that's it. We've never had a team where in the preseason and before the season starts, they even mention the word Super Bowl ever. And now they're flat out saying that is our goal for this year, a Super Bowl. How amazing is that? Just to be able to say that we have a team now that their goal this year is the Super Bowl, and they are telling everyone and anyone that will listen. It's just an amazing turnaround from, we just want to win the division. We just want to win a playoff game. And my expectation last year was win the division and win a playoff game. Anything other than that was icing on the cake. Well, we got a whole lot of icing last year because we got not only 1, but 2 wins at home in the playoffs. And we got to go to the NFC Championship game and be 30 minutes away from a Super Bowl. Man, that's a lot of icing on the cake. We were almost there. Well, there's an old saying, have your cake and eat it too. I'm ready to eat my cake, man.
All right. We are just a week into memberships. So there's one person I don't think I added to this recent member shout outs, but that's how we're going to end the show today. Again, I want to thank all the listeners, all the subscribers, all the members. You are the best part of this channel. You are the sponsors. You are the supporters that make it possible. And I've said it a few times. This is a community. This is your community. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. Engage with it, because this is real for once. And the friendships that we are creating now through this channel, it feels like we're all an extension, of each other when we get in to have these live streams, and the same people that show up each and every show or each and every week, whether you stop by after the live show or you're in the live shows. There's short form content to enjoy too that we'll be pumping beginning this week, even more so than what you've seen. So I appreciate you all. I really appreciate the community that we're trying to build here. It's a great group of people. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, would love to earn the opportunity for you to subscribe and be part of this amazing Lions community. That's it for me today and Eric here on the Rise and Grind Morning Show. We'll be back on Monday. The All Grit Pod is on at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. Can't wait to see what he has to say. And we'll be back at it throughout the weekend with more news, rumors, and updates as we hear them. But now it's on to the regular season. It's done. Like, training camp's done. Preseason is done. Roster is done. It's now time to focus on the LA Rams. All right, y'all. Go and Pride, go Detroit Lions. Y'all have a wonderful day. We'll see you in the next one.
Adam Schefter at ESPN says there's 275,000 people.
Well, that was some party in downtown Detroit. 775,000 people, shattering the NFL draft attendance record.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.